10 years ago, my wife abandoned me and our 5 children, leaving me to raise them alone. What I discovered about her after all these years will shock you. Stay with me to hear the full story of resilience, love, and truth. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Gareth sat in the dimly lit kitchen, the soft hum of the refrigerator breaking the silence of the early morning. The clock read 5 a.m., the only time of day when he could find a moment of peace. 10 years had passed since his white wife walked out on him and their 5 children, leaving him, a black man, to navigate fatherhood alone in a society that constantly judged him for his skin color. The whispers and stares of neighbors, the veiled comments from strangers about his unusual family, and the outright accusations that he wouldn't be able to raise his children properly were wounds he had learned to ignore. Each morning, as he brewed coffee and flipped pancakes, he thought about the life he had built with his children, a life that defied every stereotype and expectation thrust upon him. The morning chaos began as soon as the kids woke up. His youngest called out from the hallway, "Dad, I can't find my homework." Gareth sighed, handing him a forgotten lunchbox and pointing him toward the pile of papers on the table. The laughter and chatter at breakfast filled the air, a comforting contrast to the silence his wife had left behind. He watched them. His oldest, Jamal, who had become his second in command, helping with the younger ones, and his youngest, Malik, who was still adjusting to life without a mother he barely remembered. Each smile and giggle made the struggles worth it, but Gareth couldn't deny the weight of the responsibility he bore alone. At work, Gareth found a strange solace in the rhythm of the factory. The machines roared, drowning out his thoughts, but the occasional comments from coworkers reminded him that he was never truly free from judgment. 5 kids, and he's still standing, one of them joked, shaking his head. Gareth responded with a polite smile, but inside he felt the sting of their disbelief. They didn't see the sleepless nights, the endless laundry, or the moments when he doubted himself. They didn't know about the racial slurs muttered under their breath when they thought he wasn't listening, or the extra effort he had to put in just to be seen as competent. One evening, as he sorted through the day's mail, his hands froze on an envelope with familiar handwriting. It was from her. The memories came rushing back, the arguments, the tears, the day she packed her bags and left. What could she possibly want after all these years? Gareth opened the letter, his heart pounding. She wrote about how she had changed and wanted to reconnect with the family she had abandoned. Anger bubbled up inside him as he read her words. How dare she? But beneath the anger was confusion and a sliver of curiosity. What had happened to her over the past decade to bring her back now? Gareth couldn't keep this to himself. He needed to talk to his children, but he knew this was a delicate matter. That night, he stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The image of his wife's face, the sound of her voice, and the memories of their life together played in his mind like a cruel movie. He thought about how her absence had shaped their family, and how her return could disrupt the fragile balance they had fought so hard to achieve. The next morning, as he packed lunches and tied shoelaces, Gareth felt the weight of the letter pressing on him. He watched his children laugh and bicker over cereal, unaware of the storm brewing. "Dad, are you okay?" Jamal asked, his sharp eyes noticing the tension in Gareth's shoulders. Gareth forced a smile. "I'm fine, son," he lied. But he wasn't fine. The letter had reopened old wounds, and he knew he couldn't delay the inevitable conversation with his kids. At dinner that evening, Gareth cleared his throat, drawing the attention of his children. I need to talk to you all about something, he began, his voice steady but his hands trembling. He explained that their mother had reached out, wanting to reconnect. The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Jamal's jaw tightened, his fists clenching at his sides. "Why now?" he demanded, his voice laced with anger. The younger ones looked confused, their memories of her too faint to understand the gravity of the situation. Gareth reassured them that nothing would happen without their input, but he could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. That night, as the children went to bed, Gareth sat alone in the living room, the letter still on the table. He thought about the years of struggle, the sacrifices, and the love that had kept their family together. He knew that whatever decision they made, it would change their lives forever. For the first time in years, Gareth felt uncertain about the future. The tension lingered in the house for days after Gareth's revelation about the letter. His older children, especially Jamal and his second eldest, Lila, seemed distant, retreating into their thoughts, while the younger ones peppered him with questions about their mother. "What does she look like now, Dad? Do you think she misses us?" Malik asked one evening, his innocent curiosity cutting through Gareth's heavy heart. He didn't have the answers they wanted. Instead, he offered them his unwavering presence, reassuring them that whatever happened, they would face it together. But the questions didn't stop. They became sharper, more pointed. "Why did she leave us?" Jamal asked late one night, his voice quiet but edged with anger. Gareth looked into his son's eyes, now filled with the weight of responsibilities no teenager should bear. "I don't know, son," Gareth admitted, his voice heavy with the truth. "But what I do know is that she made a choice, and we've been stronger because of it." Jamal nodded, but his clenched fist told a different story. The bitterness was there, bubbling just below the surface. Meanwhile, Lila took a different approach. Quietly, she began researching their mother online, using her phone to dig through social media profiles and old posts. One evening, she hesitated before showing Gareth what she'd found. "Dad, look at this," she said, passing her phone to him. On the screen were photos of their mother from the past decade. She looked different, older, with lines of stress etched into her face. Among the pictures were posts that painted a fragmented story of financial struggles, lawsuits, and desperate attempts to rebuild a life. Gareth's chest tightened as he scrolled through the images and captions. This wasn't the woman he had married, but it was clear that life hadn't been kind to her. The more they uncovered, the more questions arose. Why had she chosen now to return? Was it out of genuine regret, or was there something else driving her? The doubts multiplied, and Gareth decided it was time to take action. He reached out to a private investigator, someone he trusted to dig deeper into the truth. Meeting in a small cafe downtown, Gareth handed over a photo of his ex-wife and the limited details he had about her current life. "I need to know everything," he said, his voice steady but firm. The investigator nodded, promising to provide answers. As the days turned into weeks, the anticipation became almost unbearable. Gareth threw himself into work, using the rhythmic hum of the machines to quiet his restless mind. At home, the children adjusted to the new tension in the air. They began asking less about their mother and more about their father. "Are you okay, Dad?" Malik asked one evening, his wide eyes full of concern. Gareth forced a smile, ruffling his youngest son's hair. "I'm fine, buddy. Just a lot on my mind." But he wasn't fine. The weight of the unknown pressed down on him, threatening to crack the calm facade he worked so hard to maintain. Then, one evening, the phone rang. Gareth's heart leapt as he saw the investigator's name on the screen. He answered, his voice steady despite the nerves coursing through him. "I have some information," the investigator began, and Gareth listened intently as the pieces of his ex-wife's life came together. The picture was not a flattering one. She was drowning in debt, facing multiple lawsuits, and struggling to stay afloat. It became clear that her sudden desire to reconnect with the family she had abandoned wasn't born out of love or regret, but desperation. Gareth sat in silence after the call, the investigator's words echoing in his mind. The truth confirmed what he had feared but didn't want to admit. His ex-wife's motives weren't pure. She wasn't returning to mend broken bonds or seek forgiveness. She was looking for a way out of her problems. As he processed this, Jamal entered the room, sensing his father's turmoil. "What did you find out, Dad?" he asked, his tone cautious but curious. Gareth sighed, motioning for his son to sit beside him. "It's not good, Jamal," he admitted, sharing the details of the investigator's findings. Jamal's face hardened, his jaw tightening as he absorbed the information. "We don't need her," he said finally, his voice firm. "We've been fine without her, and we'll keep being fine." That night, Gareth gathered all his children together. Sitting in their small but cozy living room, he shared what he had learned. The younger ones listened with wide eyes, while the older kids exchanged knowing glances. "We're a family," Gareth said, his voice filled with conviction, "and nothing and no one will change that." As he looked around the room, he saw the strength in his children, the resilience they had built together over the years. Despite the challenges, they had created a life full of love and laughter, a life worth protecting. The conversation left Gareth both relieved and heartbroken. He had hoped, deep down, that there might be a chance for reconciliation, a way to fill the void his ex-wife had left. But the truth was clear, and so was the path forward. They would face this together, as they always had, and they would come out stronger on the other side. For the first time in weeks, Gareth felt a sense of clarity. Whatever lay ahead, he knew his family would weather the storm. The day of the meeting arrived, bringing with it a heavy sense of anticipation. Gareth and the children sat together in the small family car, the hum of the engine the only sound as they drove to the park. No one spoke, each lost in their own thoughts about what was to come. Gareth glanced in the rearview mirror, catching glimpses of their faces. Jamal sat stoic, his arms crossed and his jaw tight, while Lila stared out the window, her expression unreadable. Malik fidgeted in his seat, his nervous energy filling the otherwise quiet space. Gareth's heart ached for them, knowing how deeply this encounter could affect each of them. They arrived at the park and settled on a bench near the playground. The younger kids watched the swing sway in the breeze, their curiosity mixed with unease. Jamal stood beside Gareth, his tall frame stiff with tension, while Lila stayed close to the younger ones, her protective instincts kicking in. Gareth's ex-wife arrived a few minutes later, her presence marked by hesitant steps and an anxious expression. She wore a simple dress, her face lined with age and stress. For a moment, she stood still, taken in the sight of the family she had left behind. Gareth rose to his feet, his gaze steady but guarded. The children remained seated, their reactions ranging from curiosity to outright suspicion. She approached cautiously, her hands clasped in front of her. "Hello," she said softly, her voice trembling. Jamal's eyes narrowed, his posture rigid, while Lila gave her a guarded nod. The younger ones looked to Gareth for guidance, unsure of how to respond. Gareth gestured for her to sit, his tone polite but firm. "Let's talk," he said, keeping his emotions in check. She began to speak, her words faltering as she tried to explain her absence. She talked about the struggles she faced after leaving, about the mistakes she made, and the lessons she claimed to have learned. But her words rang hollow, lacking the depth and sincerity needed to bridge the years of pain she had caused. Jamal's frustration boiled over, his voice cutting through the tension. "Why now?" he demanded, his tone sharp. "Why didn't you come back sooner? Why did you leave in the first place?" His questions hung in the air, unanswered. She looked away, unable to meet his piercing gaze. Malik, too young to fully grasp the complexity of the situation, asked softly, "Did you miss us?" Her eyes filled with tears as she nodded, but the gesture felt more performative than genuine. Lila finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "You left us. Dad did everything for us. Why should we believe you care now?" Her words hit like a hammer, and Gareth felt a surge of pride for his daughter's strength. He remained silent, letting his children express their emotions, their voices carrying the weight of years of abandonment and resilience. After what felt like an eternity, Gareth decided to step in. "The truth is, we've built a life without you," he said, his voice steady but resolute. "I'm not saying there's no room for forgiveness, but trust takes time, and right now, my priority is protecting these kids." She opened her mouth to protest, but he raised a hand, stopping her. "This isn't just about you anymore. It's about them. If they want to rebuild a relationship, that's their choice. But you'll have to prove yourself, and it won't happen overnight." The tension lingered as the conversation drew to a close. She asked to see the children again, but Gareth made it clear that it would depend entirely on their willingness. They left the park as a family, the weight of the encounter hanging heavily over them. Back at home, the children gathered in the living room, their emotions raw but unified. Jamal broke the silence, his voice firm. "We don't need her, Dad. We've done fine without her, and we'll keep doing fine." The others nodded in agreement, their expressions resolute. In the following days, Gareth focused on restoring a sense of normalcy. He spent more time with the children, encouraging them to channel their emotions into positive outlets. Malik joined a soccer team. Lila immersed herself in her art, and Jamal threw himself into his schoolwork with renewed determination. Gareth felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that his love and dedication had built a foundation strong enough to weather any storm. The private investigator's final report confirmed what they already knew. Her life was fraught with financial and legal troubles, her return motivated more by desperation than genuine remorse. Gareth shared the findings with his children, ensuring they understood the reality of the situation. Together, they made the decision to move forward without her, their unity stronger than ever. One evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Gareth shared something he had been keeping to himself. He unfolded a stack of documents, placing them in front of his children. "I've been working on this for years," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I wanted to make sure you all have the opportunities you deserve." The documents outlined college savings plans, investments, and other financial provisions he had painstakingly built over the years. The children stared at him, their expressions a mix of shock and gratitude. "Everything I've done has been for you," Gareth continued, his voice cracking. "I wanted to make sure you have a future, no matter what." Tears filled their eyes as they embraced him, their love and appreciation pouring out in waves. In that moment, the past felt distant. its pain overshadowed by the strength of their bond. As the days turned into weeks, the family settled into a new rhythm, their focus on the future. The children pursued their dreams with determination, inspired by their father's sacrifices and resilience. Gareth watched them grow, his pride and love for them filling every corner of his heart. They had faced adversity and come out stronger, proving that their family's strength was unshakable. Their story wasn't over. It was just beginning. The challenges they had faced had forged a bond that nothing could break, a testament to the power of love, resilience, and unity.